Hey, it's your old pal Slim, and this is 70 Millimeter, a podcast for film lovers. Every Monday, I'm joined by famous artist Danny Haas.
I want these pants so bad, and I would wear those boots daily. I would sleep in those boots.
And spiritual advisor Protolexis.
We're in a pandemic, please.
And together as friends forever, we discuss recently watched movies. Later in this episode, Faves Month continues with Danny choosing Joe Johnston's The Rocketeer. Will the whimsy of a flying rocket man still feel real after all these years? Find out now. Faves Month rolling on. And if I can just say, Danny's state of mind this last week, in a word, unbearable. The amount of tension with Danny. Ahead of this episode, seeing these Rocketeer reviews come in our Discord, on Letterboxd. I've never seen him like this. Not once.
I lashed out at you last night.
I was right. I was in Danny's shoes a mere 2 weeks ago with Mr. Nobody. I know what he's going through right now. Danny, I'm sorry, but this too shall pass. We'll get past it together.
I had a game last night at Apex where I got 0 damage and Danny let me have it hard. I've never seen him like this.
Sorry.
But we also have some big nudes about, I just said big nudes.
Big nudes.
I'm still thinking
big
about
nudes.
Flash Gordon.
God.
We also have some big news about next week's episode. I'm not sure if you're aware, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. It's on a Sunday, everybody. I had the date totally wrong. But Proto machinated big nudes joggers. You could absolutely buy that on the boardwalk probably right now. Valentine's Day episode is next week. And Proto put together that big bracket for the patrons to vote on. And it was a huge success, which, by the way, we're welcoming new patrons this week, Grant, Alex, and Evelyn, who just joined. Proto, are you ready to officially reveal to the audience what we're going to be covering next week? What won the vote?
Yes, I am. We got it down to 16 movies, the biggest romance movies of all time. V'ger put it together. He ran the numbers, the algo, figured them out, and then the patrons had to choose. They had to choose. So this was their doing. And it came down to Romeo and Juliet versus Titanic. And now, Romeo and Juliet has won.
Wow.
With 61%.
Not even close.
If I can be frank,
Not even close.
Romeo and Juliet annihilated every movie it came up against. It was the clear winner from day one, round one.
What else did it defeat
over.
in the brackets? Give us a taste.
72% over The Notebook.
Oh,
Then
wow.
That's the most over any movie. And then 72%
Is that
over
John
True
Grisham?
Romance.
True
Then
romance.
Then 60% over Sleepless in Seattle. I mean, a president doesn't even get 60%.
No, it
In an
doesn't
election,
happen.
it doesn't happen. And then it got 61 over Titanic, which some say is the biggest movie of all time.
The greatest
You can
love
check the
story
numbers.
ever told. Quote.
Who voted for this stuff?
Patrons voted for it. There was also a watch party in our Discord this week for Sleepless in Seattle. We were, I think, all on Apex at the time, and every time I opened up Discord, there was like 400 messages in that channel, the watch party channel. It was unreal.
The Nora Ephron stands had to heal some way. So
Self-healing. So next week.
I can be honest.
Oh, please.
Please be honest.
I logged in every time with my email to vote for Romeo and Juliet on every bracket because I wanted this film so bad.
It didn't make a difference.
My vote counts
If it did,
too.
I would have deleted it if it mattered. So
No, you wouldn't have.
Romeo and Juliet is next week. Potential voter fraud investigation being taken on by the villagers. Stay tuned to the results of that investigation. I feel like there's always an investigation into something with these VAC brackets every week. But we will have a special guest next week. We mentioned one of our favorite podcasts, the Cinernauts, dear friends of the show, former producer of the show, Ian, hosts that show. He's actually not going to be our guest. He's already been on the show. He's out. But one of those hosts has Romeo and Juliet.
Ian was on our show?
Ian was on our show. Arrival episode, one of our best. Coincidentally,
he was on
one of
the
the
Arrival
episodes I think we had audio issues. Yeah. Wasn't that long ago. But if I can complete my thought just for 1 second.
Okay. Wait, Ian was on our show?
Ian is not our guest, but one of the hosts on that show has Romeo and Juliet as their number one film on Letterboxd in their top 4. So you talk about a faves month, which is what we're doing right now. Boom. Special guest next week from the Cinernauts podcast. She's the expert on Romeo and Juliet. We reached out to her. She's pumped, and she will be on for the very special Valentine's episode of 70mm.
when I saw that Romeo and Juliet was going to win and that it was her top fave, I got chills.
Yeah.
There's not been a lot of freaky stuff that has happened on this show. A lot.
I'm all chilled up right now.
Paranormal, right?
Yeah.
Look
There's
at my
a
goosebumps.
temporal effect happening
Say
right
it.
now. And that stuff just doesn't happen.
I just saw an orb.
I mean, remember just a few weeks ago, Kevin Costner's birthday.
Oh,
We drop a Kevin Costner episode on his birthday. We talk about fate.
Yeah.
Or just demonic presence.
You talk about demonic. Boom. Just be careful next week when you're on the show. Okay? So that's next week. Did you watch any movies?
In a manner of speaking, I did happen to watch 2 documentaries.
Oh.
So, me and Jenna, we sat down, JR scrolling on Letterboxd. We watched 2. One was recommended to me. I won't name names, but someone said, there's a new documentary, or it's not really a documentary. It's more of like a stage show on Hulu called In and of Itself.
Mm-hmm.
They gave it 4 stars and they said, just watch it. Just watch it.
Yeah.
So I just watched it, and total dud. I gave this 1 star. It's this guy who does, it's one-man show, stage performer. Basically, he does magic. He does like some magic tricks, but
this is a magic trick show?
yeah, pretty much. Well, it's other things too. It involves magic and some other things, but
Life.
the thing is, if you're going to do magic, right? Like, magic can be impressive to begin with. If, technically it can be pretty cool. But if I'm watching it and I know how every trick is done, it loses it, right? Like you gotta see a magic trick and say, dang, how do you do that? Well, every single trick that he does, I knew how this guy did it immediately. Like there just like wasn't any, so like either I've seen the trick before or it was just like incredibly obvious. And then he's just like he's just really not good on stage. He acted like he's done like over 500 of these, but he acted like he's never done one before, as if he was like ad-libbing it the whole time. Just a very strange, not my cup of tea. People love it. It has like an average rating of 4 stars on
Insane
Letterboxd.
buzz right now.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, I don't think so.
All I'm getting from this right now, Proto, is that you know how to do magic and you haven't done any for me.
No, I actually don't know how to do magic,
Emotional magic.
but I've watched YouTube videos.
The Discord, Chuck is bringing up how this cat was on Tim Heidecker's Office Hours this last week. I did watch that episode. I thought he was a total dud of a guest. He didn't give Tim anything in his answers, all one-word answers. So his interview actually turned me off to the whole thing. I was kind of interested because this was before your review, but I thought he was a dweebo.
It's a shame. It's a shame to waste 90 minutes.
Nobody in Discord
is.
likes David Copperfield. I remember staying up late as a kid to watch David Copperfield specials, and they blew my mind. My mind.
Didn't you get attacked by a tiger?
I I don't think so.
No, you're thinking of
Roy? Isn't that Roy? Yeah, those two dudes. Siegfried and Roy. Can we ban Danny from this podcast? Instantly. Cripes. Anyway, David Copperfield is a delight. In my opinion, I've watched most of his specials. It's a lot of fun.
moving on.
Please, we got to move on. Was that it? Your documentary?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said you watched 2.
Yeah. I watched another one called A Secret Love. It was actually pretty good. 3 stars we gave it on Netflix. It's a good one. If you're looking for a solid documentary, it's actually about a woman who played in the 40s. She played baseball in a League of Their Own league.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's her story. It's her and her partner, and they were a gay couple in hiding for their whole lives, and they didn't come out to anybody until
Marla Hooch,
2014. Is pretty incredible. Yeah, it's really well made. It's a cool story.
Interesting.
It reminds me of when Danny almost chose A League of Their Own, but instead chose Riding in Cars with Boys for this podcast.
It wasn't the right time, Matt. It wasn't the right time.
One day we'll get back there. Did you watch anything this week, Danny?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
I watched this really crappy movie called The Little Things that everyone was talking about.
HBO Max exclusive.
Boring ass movie with okay performances. I like Rami Malek. To him as a detective is a terrible choice. Absolutely terrible choice.
Got a very interesting dialect.
And it looked like Jared Leto had a pillow up his shirt the whole time, whatever that gut they had going on, and his fake nose. It was, I don't know. The story was okay. It didn't have a good payoff. So in my frustration, I went back to HBO Max, going back to the 90s when all the movies were perfect. And I watched The Pelican Brief for the first time with Denzel and Julia Roberts. And yes, and it is so good. I loved every second of it and had a great time.
Wow.
Have you seen Fallen with Denzel?
If you're naming another Denzel movie, then no.
Oh my God, you have to watch Fallen. We should do Fallen. Oh my God.
Who on this podcast was the Denzel hater? That was you. Yeah, Danny, we just glossed over that. You trashed him in a previous episode.
Show me the tapes.
Can someone pull the tapes? We have a team
trash him.
Working on the backlog of episodes. There's got to be someone who found that. There was a run of
movies. I'm talking. There was a run of movies when they're all about the same, Denzel. And I just got bored of him. That's all I'm saying. Okay?
I was not one of those. Forrest is suggesting that I was involved. I was not involved.
There's just a 2000s run of movies that he did, starting with probably a football movie.
Dale's giving me the cut sign. He says we should have had a meeting with legal before I brought this up, so we need to move on. And I love that Dale is
speaking my truth. But I went back and watched Pelican Brief with Denzel, and it's very good. He's great in it. Okay?
Well, I love Denzel.
And I've been begging you to do Malcolm X on this show, Matt.
Behind closed doors.
We did get a question on Twitter recently that we should have done or should do something to celebrate Black history on the show. And I agree. Malcolm X was brought up as a potential movie. I would also love to watch it. I've never seen it. I think I steered clear of it when I was a kid because it's like 3 hours or something. Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, double feature. Malcolm X, I think we should do. Maybe we make an executive decision. I don't know if we're going to be able to fit it in for February, but just because February is over doesn't mean we should just not look at this stuff.
John Goodman, Denzel, Fallen, 1998.
Listen, you're in the 90s? I'm good. Let's do it.
Should we just do Denzel month? Silent. Okay. No, it got too much silence. Matt, too much silence for that.
If we're doing Fallen, I'm in.
That's 2 versus 1, Matt. Sorry.
All right, we'll move on. Real quick before we get into the Rocketeer. It's what everyone is here for. I'll talk real briefly. I continued down my Paul Verhoeven journey, whom I consider one of the greatest science fiction directors, as we talked about last week with the RoboCop. I checked out Starship Troopers again. Continues to be a lot of fun. Lots of laughs, a lot of great violence. But for the first time, maybe ever. I thought I had this logged, but I don't know if I'd ever seen it before. I watched Basic Instinct with Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone.
It's a natural progression when you watch Flash Gordon twice. You go straight to Basic Instinct.
I need to amp it up a little bit. Let's find the real deal.
Stay horny, my friends.
So he is on a bit of a run here. This is let me just read the tagline, the description. A police detective is in charge of the investigation of a brutal murder in which a beautiful and seductive woman could be involved. This is the infamous movie with that scene of Sharon Stone, uncrossing her legs in the interrogation room.
Is she not an alien in this movie?
I haven't even seen it, and I know.
Casey, can you get a handle on this? I need Casey to interject. I think you're thinking of either Men in Black or a parody movie that parodied.
You're thinking of Mimic.
Species.
Basic Instinct.
Species. Thank you.
Species or Mimic, maybe both of them. So this is the first time I've seen it as an adult. You talk about a horny movie. I needed to smoke like a pack of cigarettes while I was watching this movie. I can't believe that this movie is rated R. Some of these scenes, there's a sex scene with Sharon Stone and Michael Douglas that is cinematic art. I don't know how they filmed it. I don't know how it was an NC-17. You could see a lot of things. I'm pretty sure I saw an outline of a Douglas going around in that bedroom scene, and I didn't know that was in there. But it's no William Peterson. But anyway, I loved it. It was crazy. It was super entertaining, trying to figure out if Sharon Stone actually is the killer. Michael Douglas falls for her, and he's just like totally reprehensible in the movie, but a lot of fun. Art suggests Sexual Michael Douglas Month. Fatal Attraction next. Can you imagine us promoting that month?
Stupid.
Casey says, I'm busy. Casey, do not read the Parent's Guide for Basic Instinct. I'll tell you that right now. Chuck says it's a 5-star movie. I had a lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars. And there's a backstory to this movie where apparently there's a he said, she said about whether or not she was okay with the scene, the interrogation scene, where she says she lied to him and vice versa. So fascinating backstory. Do check it out if you have time. We got to move on. Sexual Michael Douglas Month right around the corner. Let's get into The Rocketeer. This is Danny's pick for Faves Month. The big one. We've all been anxious to get here. A lot of ratings piping into our village, our Discord, every which way but loose. Perdo, can you fly us through this movie?
Los Angeles, 1938. Cliff Secord is a daring pilot who is trying to catch a break and make it big by flying his airplane straight into the Airplane Racing Nationals. But when some gangsters shoot his plane out of the sky during a test flight, his plans go up in smoke. Little does he know that his life will never be the same when a mysterious package is found in the hangar, a rocket that you strap to your back. Developed by Howard Hughes, sought after by the FBI, the mob, and Nazis? Cliff Secord is in over his head, and there's only one way out: to strap on the rocket and become the Rocketeer.
If you're playing the James Horner score over that right now, I'm going to lose it.
I'm going to get a DM from Danny. It's going to be like the crying emoji when Legal is reviewing the edit of the episode.
I'm going to lose it.
Walk us through the first time you saw The Rocketeer, Danny.
Oh, man. The first time, well, I was a young boy, 9 or 10. I don't remember seeing it for the first time, but I remember seeing it multiple times after that. This movie was like everything that I wanted as a kid. I wanted to be able to fly. I loved airplanes. I always wanted to be an astronaut, all the kid dreams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I see this film on screen of a guy putting a jetpack on his back with the most incredible helmet ever, it was life-changing. I mean, I think about this movie often still, but man, this movie was everything for me as a kid. And yeah, that was probably it. And then more recently, so I'd seen it so many times since then. And then probably a couple years ago, I forget what year it was, Casey, I had never seen it in theaters. I'd only seen it at home, and she surprised me. I didn't know it was showing locally here one day, and I got to see it on the big screen. And chills seeing that on the silver screen. It felt good. So I just adore this movie. It is probably, if you were to ask me outside of anything, this is why I picked Faves for Faves Month. It's my favorite movie.
If I remember correctly, that was a double feature. It was The Rocketeer and Basic Instinct that you guys saw. Pardo, what about you?
I don't know the first time I saw this, but we definitely had the VHS of this and watched it a ton, to the point, I don't remember the first time I saw it. I just remember watching it a bunch and loving it. I hadn't watched it in a long time, and then I watched it with my kids last year. And it was a magical experience to revisit this, because this is one of those movies in a small group of movies where every line to me is memorable. I could, as I'm watching this movie, I could probably almost quote like every line of it, in the same way like I feel that way about Jurassic Park, where it's all just, I don't know, it's just the just the cadence of this movie, the way it's stitched together. I just love it. I think it works so well. So it just gives me the warm and fuzzies, especially when it opens with the Horner score. I mean, so iconic, the score of this movie.
How about a Billy Campbell third build in this movie? I just looked at Letterboxd. He's like behind Timothy Dalton and Alan Arkin. But I was one of my first notes was I loved Campbell in this.
Oh, absolutely love him.
He's like a young Christopher Reeves almost. You know, can't get Christopher Reeves, but you can get Billy Campbell, for God's sake, and he's just as good. But I saw this also pretty early on. This was like how I played with my G.I. Joes. You just imagine that they have little rocket packs and you're flying around and you're the Rocketeer. I mean, the helmet, is the helmet the greatest thing ever made in the history of film? Honest to God. There's like the amount of memories I had with him putting that helmet on, and
so ridiculous.
When he says, "How do I look?" to Peavy, I almost started openly weeping at the memories fueling through my brain at that scene. That is so ingrained in every sense of my being. And another scene that is just as good is the flag scene. When the light shines on him. Stop it.
Stop.
End this charade. Just amazing movie magic. So it was great. This is the first time I've seen it in a very long time. Totally held up. It was so much fun to go back. This might even have been the first time I've seen it as an adult, really, in probably a decade or so. Yeah, those were my first notes. Was Campbell was just so fun and a great lead, I thought, full of emotion. It kind of reminds me of, what's his face from The Mummy? Can't remember the name escapes me.
Brendan Fraser?
I'm going to let you get there.
Just because I'm complimenting Rocketeer here. That kind of like whimsy in a character definitely reminded the both of them are kind of in the same boat, Brendan Fraser. What jumps out at you on this viewing, Danny?
I don't know specific for this viewing if anything jumped out more, but I was noticing I was really loving a lot of Peavy and Cliff's relationship in this. They have a great, there's something about this. It's almost like a father-son relationship. He's like this mentoring kid under him, pilot, mechanic. And I just love the two of them together a lot in this film, especially the very opening scene. That airfield moment, the music, the bay doors opening. These men have worked on this one plane, the GB, to fly in this nationals so that they can make a living. I mean, there's just something about this camaraderie between all the men, but between Peavy and Cliff that I love. And I noticed it a little bit more in this film, in this viewing, mainly because I was focusing a little bit more on this viewing. But there's their interactions together. I mean, Alan Arkin's a legend anyway. I mean, he's just so good. He's so good as Peavy. He's so restrained as a character. Even when he's frustrated, even when the plane is wrecked, he's more worried about Cliff than the plane. And then when they realize the plane's busted, he's just like, well, that's the end of that. And it's just like, there's something about that that I really loved in him in this.
The thing I love most about this, and I love a lot of Joe Johnston movies.
There's a lot of buzz around him right now. A lot of buzz.
And this might sound kind of weird, but of any director I can think of, I think he has like the smoothest editing and transitions of any director I can think of. To me, they're just so iconic. The way he uses music to move between scenes, like October Sky is brilliant in that way. Jumanji is great. One of my favorite, again, this sounds kind of strange, but every time I see it, I just think it's magic. In this is when the FBI, when Lothar comes to their house and the FBI is shooting up their house, and then they run out the back door, and then the music from the South Seas Club starts while you see them running away from the house, and then it transitions into the scene at the South Seas Club. That moment with then the trumpet comes up and it's playing. It's just so perfect and so smooth. The way you go from a gunfight happening in a house, the whole house like collapsing, to going to this club where it's serene and Jennifer Connelly sitting there with Timothy Dalton. It's just perfect. And there's so many moments like that where this movie just feels so smooth and so nice. There's no stuttering. There's no like rough editing. It just has a really smooth transition throughout the whole thing that I love.
His catalog of movies isn't as vast as I was expecting, Joe Johnston. He did some of the more recent ones. Let's see, Hidalgo.
Oh, he did the only good Marvel movie, so.
Captain America, First Avenger. He did the Nutcracker and the Four Realms. So let's worry about the positive ones that Joe has done. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Jumanji, October Sky.
October Sky, if we revisit that as a podcast, I would probably weep the whole episode.
I love that movie.
Excuse me.
That movie's unreal.
I don't know if
Jake
I've ever seen
Gyllenhaal,
Treasure.
Laura Dern, that old man that was Laura Dern's husband in Little Women.
Marcy's suggesting October Sky and Contact double
Lord have mercy.
If we don't do Contact on this podcast at some point in the future, I'm ending
We
this.
failed.
I'm ending it. The one, you'd mentioned the nightclub scene. How about Jan from The Office in this movie as the lounge singer? She has not aged a day since this movie has come out. She like teleported in this movie. She looked amazing.
Yeah, crazy.
How about that microphone? I love that microphone. It's so gorgeous.
Let's see. What else is on my list? I remember, God, I have a ton of things, but one of the first ones I have is kind of what Danny said, with the close-knit family with Peavy and friends in the town. The whole town family and them overpowering against the agents later in the movie. That was one of the first times I can remember in a movie getting like emotional about bad guys being defeated, of just that in the diner where they all band together so that he can escape. Oh my God, it was just amazing seeing that take place again. But the idea of the wonder and the whimsy in this movie is just like so off the charts, in my opinion. The idea that this small town can have, you know, these pilots and these planes, and it just being so positive for the future. Like the way the movie ends with them gathering around this new plane that Howard Hughes drops off, that's just like gone. Like this airplane, everyone is so happy coming together around this futuristic thing, and that this small town owns, that they're going to, or that they can build and repair. It's just like it's a bygone era. And at the end of the movie, I was like really happy that I saw it. But like, man, this kind of, you know, love and enjoyment in a small town with technology just doesn't exist anymore. And it's just gone forever. Like, what's the replacement? Electric car?
Yeah, now like society is so global that we don't really have like that level of locality with, you know, where anything would matter for like a town that could happen. Like, I don't even know what it would be. Like,
right.
You know, my library puts on an edition Like, we're not going to gather for a ribbon ceremony, though. I'm going to watch it on a live stream, maybe. But
no. What else is on your list, Danny?
For me, as I got older and got into comic books, once I realized, I don't, obviously as a kid, I didn't know this was a comic book movie, but as I learned about it and started collecting Dave Stevens' work, and I was blown away by how well the comic translated to this film. Chuck's dropping some pictures in the Discord of, the Bulldog Cafe. They literally replicated it. The helmet, there's a whole story about the helmet where Joe was already a fan of the comic coming into wanting to do the movie, and he loved doing films from the 30s anyway. When they're working on the production design and when they're working on the helmet, because obviously that's the most iconic part of the Rocketeer, Eisner stepped in and wanted them to build this absolutely this wrong helmet, this like NASA looking helmet. And Joe threatened to walk if they didn't build the actual Rocketeer helmet. And then they gave Dave Stevens a week to work up a model of it. And he did. And they chose it and they went forward with the helmet. And it's just, there's just so much about what they did. And like even the BG plane in the film was the last working BG plane in almost, I don't know if it was the world, but I know in California. And Joe had to fight for Disney to buy it, and they were dragging their feet for so long that he personally bought the plane until Disney could buy it from him. So they actually used a working GB in the film to fly and do the scenes. And there's just so much of this film that's practical, which still blows my mind. And that's why when people watch it now and they say stuff like, it still holds up. Like there's a reason it still holds up, because nothing in this film is computer generated. Everything in this film is practical, all the way down to him flying in the air. Like the shots where he's next to the airplane and the clouds, all of that is shot on film with a motion capture puppet and ILM. Like that whole sequence is not CG. It's a literal puppet. Like they made an 18-inch tall Rocketeer to make these film, like everything looks great because it's still photographed. Like it's not made by a computer. Even the Zeppelin shots over the Griffith Observatory, and they made a 12-foot long Zeppelin and they filmed it and they shot in different angles and they blew it up. And there's just so much about that. Like we talked about with Waterworld, there's just so much about making movies like this that make things last is why things still hold up in 2021. Like they're going to do like the Blu-ray release for the 20th anniversary looked incredible because it's film. Like it's perfect because of that reason. And that's why I love Joe so much. He stuck to his guns and he created, in my opinion, the best comic book movie ever. I know that's a range of movies now, but in my opinion, this holds up as one of the best comic movies ever created.
I mean, watching it, to me, it doesn't feel like a comic book movie. It just feels like a really good movie, but I think that's what you would want to have, right?
Right.
You don't want to think like, oh, I'm watching a comic book movie. And maybe that's because it's not a traditional, I don't know,
superpowers.
It's not Spider-Man, or any of that. So yeah, as a kid, I didn't know this was a comic book.
Yeah.
But yeah, it totally holds up. Like all those scenes are amazing. Him flying into the air, the scene where they strap it on to the statue first. And then, that's just like seared into my memory. I remember seeing that as a kid. I think I talked about this on the show before. I don't know when, but maybe when I watched the movie last year. But it was fun to revisit this as an adult, because when I saw this as a kid, I didn't understand what Timothy Dalton's character Neville Sinclair was trying to do with Jennifer Connelly. I thought he was in love with her, taking her to the South Seas Club. So like they go back to the house, and then like it was totally lost on me what was going on with all of this. Like what? Like why? Why is she hitting him over the head? Did he have this secret room? Okay, he's a Nazi. Like I was totally confused. Of course, watching it now, it's like, oh, it makes perfect sense. But as a kid, you just miss the little details, the clues that set you off to understand what's actually going on. I kind of wish that I could see this with fresh eyes, not knowing where Timothy Dalton's character was going, because for me, it's just like I always knew the story because I don't remember the first time I've seen this.
Yeah, he plays a really good bad guy in this. Like even kind of faking that he's a nice guy actor with maybe a mean streak, but he's really conniving in this.
Dalton is pretty much good in everything. I mean, he's the best James Bond. So it's like, he's a good double agent.
The Living Daylights, you kidding me right now?
Kidding me?
Kidding me right now. The comic book was something that I knew of ahead of time. My dad had it's not like a trade paperback, but it was almost a magazine-sized collection of the Rocketeer work. It's a white cover. You probably have it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I thought it was right behind me.
I saw that before the movie had come out. I'm not sure if it was produced for the movie, but Jenny appears in that book is very Betty Page-like. You know, there's a couple scenes like full pages where someone comes into her dressing room and she's kind of, like covering up. And my young eyes were not prepared for what I was seeing in this comic book. And so that was like my memory of that character. And I had to look to see how old Jennifer Connelly was in this movie. I think she was 20 when they filmed
20 on the dot.
There's a note in our Discord about how
Charmed.
they started dating and were dating for 5 years. But I thought she was great in this movie. I think she'd been in some other work before this, but I thought she was a perfect Jenny, when you compare the books.
Well, I think Casey sent in a voice clip of the two of us discussing this film on a podcast, but I was talking about how, as my 9-year-old self, Jennifer Connelly introduced me to feelings I did not know were there, dormant feelings.
Like Chuck's posting some of them. Yeah, that's the kind of art I was seeing at the time.
Yes, that's the art.
Cripes. Can you still buy this?
You can still buy those, yes. Your local comic shop, please support them.
Please support your local shop. Pardo, what else is on your list for The Rocketeer?
Another scene that I love, and this again just goes to Joe Johnston's great visual storytelling, is when Lothar goes to the mob guy who's in the bed, who's injured, where's the rocket?
Oh my God,
the rocket.
And that whole scene, the guard is outside, they're listening on the radio, it ends, and then they hear the screams, and then they run in. They find the body, the nurse screams. And then I just love the framing of where he looks out the window and then it goes over to Lothar. You just see his feet on the windowsill and he just scooches his feet back.
Tip, 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 tip.
It's just so good because you're like, where'd he go? And then you just see his feet. To me, it's just like brilliant storytelling. And there's so many moments like that in this movie where it's just done so well.
Mm-hmm.
How about the initial poster for this movie? Is this one of the greatest posters of all time? Easily.
I've heard Johnson talk about it, and there obviously this wasn't a big success for Disney. They were talking about how the poster, while we all love it now, then it looked like they were making a cartoon. So people assumed that the Rocketeer was this Walt Disney cartoon, and that's why a lot of people shied away from it in the beginning because they weren't sure what they were getting. They thought there wasn't an adult show. They were thinking there was going to be some cartoon made. So obviously the poster is legendary. It's absolutely gorgeous. And yeah.
I mean, when you're a kid and you see that poster, you're begging to see that movie. Take me to see The Rocketeer immediately or whenever that's out. I'm not sure if it was a couple years ago or maybe it was just the first time for me where some of the alternate posters had come out. Those were legit, right? Where he's holding the helmet. And it's kind of in the same design of the teaser poster. It still looks really good.
I mean, that's the thing. It's timeless. Like this 1930s Art Deco style really makes it come back a lot. But the style that they give this film is just it lasts forever.
Mm-hmm. I love the animation segment too in this, where they find the reel that someone died to find and bring over, and it was the animation reel of the Nazis' plans to have the jetpack men take over the entire planet.
I'm pretty sure one guy animated that whole segment too.
Holy
and
cow.
What's funny about all of that footage of Hitler and the Nazis, and the German experiments, they all they filmed that for the movie. Like even the Hitler, it's not behind the scene. It's not like old footage of Hitler. The guy that plays Hitler in those shots is like the short order cook in the Bulldog Cafe.
Oh,
like
wow.
he's the one that played Hitler in the scenes because he looks like Hitler. So it's great.
I mentioned this in my pre-review on Letterboxd, but when Jenny's at Neville's house and she makes some kind of noise, and then you see Lothar, he's like down in the living room and he has like a plate of chicken wings and he just like looks back. I just love the idea that like Lothar is just hanging out, like just sitting there waiting for his next order. Or like when he first appears, he gets the call from Neville and he's listening to the opera and he just picks up the phone. He's like, Lothar, I need you. I just every scene with him, I just love.
I love
think
that camera shot too of that scene where it starts at the radio and then it pans behind him to picking up the phone, and you don't really see him, but you hear his voice. So menacing. It's so good.
So good.
How about Bigelow in this?
Oh, wow. Yeah, he was amazing.
He's amazing.
A lot of great
that's why
memories.
when I watched Miller's Crossing with us, all I could see was Bigelow,
Mm-hmm.
the hi-hat.
How about Cliff's pants? I mean, these are the OG joggers, right? These pilot pants.
I want these pants so bad, and I would wear those boots daily. I would sleep in those boots. He never changes either.
He doesn't. I'm fine with it. I think he looks great in that outfit. That jacket.
Floppy hair.
Gosh, it just works so well.
Gabriel's posting these alternate posters. I think I need one of these.
I think
my
these
God.
are actually, I think, more modern ones. The one that I saw was not on the movie database. I think if you search like alternate Rocketeer teaser, it's kind of like Cliff standing up and his head is to the side and he's holding the helmet. But I couldn't find a high resolution version of it, so I didn't post it on any of our social media.
I have them. I could share them.
Oh,
That one's the one that's like pretty popular. I wish they
That's
would never.
the DVDs.
Yeah,
that's the
they need to
VHS
ditch that.
covers.
Just get the original design over that.
Mhm.
Oh my word, Megan! What's Megan digging
Megan,
into
I drew
over
that.
Boba.
I drew that, Megan.
The music is, we talked about it, but this music is so perfect for the whimsical nature of this movie.
Oh my gosh.
But the idea that he lost the rocket at the end of this movie and it exploded, to me as a kid, I was so pissed that they lost the jetpack. I was like, no, we're not going to get a sequel. Obviously, we never did anyway, but she stowed away the plans at the end of the movie, so it kind of left it open there. But the ending was just so... It just left me with such joy that we would get more Rocketeer movies because I wanted more of this universe, and it just unfortunately never really happened.
Yeah.
Danny, anything else in your notes for the Rocketeer?
I mean, I'm gonna go for another hour, maybe. No, not really. I mean, there was just, I just love this film. Obviously, the final scene gets me every time when they're in the cafe and Hughes comes up, the unused GB or the white and black GB pulls up, and he has that conversation with Cliff, and he's like, I've been meaning to ask you, what was it like strapping that to your back and flying like a bat out of hell? And
It was the closest I'll ever get to heaven, Mr. Hughes. Well, maybe not.
See you around, Rocketeer.
it just gives me the chills. I just love it. He tosses the pack of Beeman's gum to him. And, you know, I'm lucky to have lived and grown up here in Orlando because at MGM, well, it's now Disney's Hollywood Studios, but MGM, they had there was so much Rocketeer stuff there in the 90s before, you know, it flopped and stuff. But there was a whole area in the back lot tour where they had the GBs, they had the actual Bulldog Cafe, and you could ride by it, and they had a whole area where it was PV's like kind of shop, and it was the prototype jetpacks, and they had the statue with the cracked head, and they just had so much from this film there that as a kid, it was just, you know, this was everything to me. And so I just feel like this movie was just ingrained in my life growing up. So obviously if we're ending it, this is a 5-star film for me. It's always going to be my favorite film. I'm not sure what could change that. Not much. I mean, unless they make a second one, but they're not going to. So I'm glad we got to talk about it. I love this film dearly.
Who would play Cliff?
Billy. Just old ass Billy Campbell.
For one last ride.
Timothy Chalamet.
Oh my God, no. Please no. Robert Pattinson.
Oh,
you know, the floppy hair.
Oh,
Kidding me right now?
Kidding. Tilda Swinton as
the Rocket.
She's Lothar.
The one other note I meant to bring up was the book of plans that Howard Hughes throws into the fire. Is that one of the most well-designed books you've ever seen? Like, do they make bootlegs of those?
I have a miniature version of it, but yeah.
Because in the Simpsons universe, they'll bootleg and create real-life versions of anything in that show. So I have a bunch of like notebooks and cards and stuff. That seems like something that would be an amazing like Rocketeer bootleg book. Someone producing that book and selling it before they get shut down.
I missed, there was an auction that came up and it was all of the newspapers that they had props of when he first flies that they give out after the Bigelow.
Oh,
and
wow.
they sold them for like $20 for each. And I missed it. And I kicked myself because I wanted those newspaper clippings so bad.
I had an older rating that was probably BLB before Letterboxd, but I'm 4.5 stars in this. I love this movie. It's so much fun to revisit after so many years. Everyone in this movie is so good. Everyone has so much fun. It's an era of filmmaking that I feel like doesn't really exist anymore. So it was great to rewatch. Prado?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I said last week that it's a 5-star movie, and rewatching it this week, I feel the same way. I think it's a perfect movie. It's just it also just like brings me joy. During the whole thing, it's just so much fun. It's so well crafted. Joe Johnston does a fantastic job. Characters are all so colorful and well rounded. Yeah, I love it.
Bless you.
God bless. Faves Month rolls on. The Rocketeer in the books. It's not time yet for Proto to make his pick. We're going to save that for next week. There's been a lot of talk about Proto's pick. A lot of talk.
Doing a lot of soul searching. Okay?
Mel asked, good question. Is Proto eating right now? Proto, are you eating right now?
Who can say? Can
The
you not
amount
hear
of
it?
time, Mel, I have to spend editing out Proto's eating. You don't even know, okay? We have some voicemails to get to. You can leave us a voicemail or voicemail or a letter using the links on 70mmpod.com. But before we do that, I do want to announce our winner for the week for the free year of Letterboxd Pro. If you share the show on social media, you get a free year of Letterboxd Pro. It's our favorite social media site. So if you love movies and you have not joined us on Letterboxd to share your reviews and likes, please do so. This week's winner is Eternal Blue Sky on Twitter. Congratulations. You did it. And if you want to support Letterboxd at any time, you can upgrade to pro or patron status using the link on 70mmpod.com. So by all means, support our dear friends at Letterboxd.
Let's get to it.
Let's see what we want to get to. There's one that came over the wire from Casey, by the way, that you mentioned. This one comes from Christy, this letter. Hey guys, I've been listening to 70mm Pod since episode 5, Rogue One, at which point I went back and listened to the ones I'd missed. I can honestly say it was my favorite find of 2020. I can't believe it took me so long to become a patron. Sorry about that, but I'm so glad I did. Getting to talk about movies with other movie lovers, do the voice Slim, is quite frankly a relief from the chaos in the world right now. Here's the thing though, I have 3 brothers and we all love movies. They were the guys I talked to about movies, even though we all have different favorites and tastes. These would be hours-long, crazy conversations with lots of laughing. Remind you of anything? My brothers are living all around the world right now, so I don't get to talk to all 3 of them together as much as I'd like, but you guys remind me of them so much. The banter, the inside jokes, the laughing. So if I'm honest, your podcast feels a little like home. Is that too much? Oh well, it's the truth. Thanks again, your friend and movie lover, Christy.
My goodness, Chris.
Unreal. Great letter. Thank you so much, Christy.
Thank you.
She follows up. One more thing I forgot. If you ever do a month of covering nostalgic kids movies, please do The Goonies. It's the movie that started my film addiction. I've probably seen it about 30 times. I'm pretty sure you all hate it, but I'm willing to take the risk.
What?
Goonies will happen someday.
We should do a Goonies month where it's like Goonies style films.
Just do Goonies 4 times.
Goonies. Whatever that. Super 8.
Monster Squad. Oh my
Squad.
God, that's a great idea. Monster Squad.
Kick Wolfman for the Nards.
Trying to catch up on Discord here.
Super 8. Whew.
Great letter. Next letter, subject line, The Rocketeer. Super 8. That's a Goonies movie, I think. Marcy
Love
suggests
Super 8.
that. J.J. Abrams. Ever heard of him?
Does it again.
This one comes from Michael. Dear Slim, Danny Proto, and the VHS Village. As I said in my previous email, I want to say how thankful I am for such a great community with great hosts who put on a 5-banger of a show for film lovers. This week's pick in Phase Month is Danny's with The Rocketeer. This is one of the first movies I remember watching and absolutely falling in love with it as a kid. I also remember my first trip to Disney World where I saw The Rocketeer in Hollywood Studios and have a picture of him. I'll start by saying, as I've got older and started my career in teaches high school history, I have loved this movie even more. The historical intricacies of the story that Disney incorporates is amazing. The Nazis really did have plans for technology such as the rocket pack. Incorporating Howard Hughes, one of the world's greatest aviators, and having the spy be a Hollywood elite all have some accurate elements from history. Lastly, Disney always does films dealing with flight really well. The love affair people have with flying, with the freedom associated with flight, is something every kid has been fascinated by during their childhood. From top to bottom, I think this is a 5-banger of a film, but I hate that Timothy Dalton, worst James Bond ever, has an English accent the whole film, and then the last 20 minutes is German? Thank you so much for the encouragement with my first email about Monty Python and my best friend seeing me. I will be joining the Patreon very soon. Got to run it by my fiance as I recently got engaged.
Hey.
I hope you 3 and the Villagers have a great week. Love you guys, Michael. P.S. Proto, please, just pick something good.
Okay.
So that has to feel great for Danny to not get a negative Rocketeer email. You're getting some positive Rocketeer feedback right now.
Listen, it feels great.
I'm right there with you with Patreon. You know, there's no feeling greater of dread than when your spouse sends you a screenshot of your bank account listings just with a question mark. That'll make a pain in your groin happen real quick. Thanks for the letter.
I get it.
Let's see. Last letter before we get into our voicemails. Listen, Living Daylights, was that the first one he did? The Living Daylights? I rewatched that for my great rewatch. That movie is good. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this might shock you, but 90% of the Bond movies are not good. So when you get to Living Daylights, it's like you're discovering 2001: A Space Odyssey before anyone else. Lex is saying I'm wrong, but Lex, go back and watch that filth. It's mostly filth.
So much trash, especially Roger Moore.
God, his first movie in
Slog.
Nolans.
I'm stalled out in the Roger Moore era.
Terrible.
It's bad.
Terrible.
Oh my God.
RoboCop email coming in here from Anthony. RoboCop is an excellent movie from the opening frame to the last. I'm so glad to hear you guys all loved it and enjoyed it. It's been a favorite of mine for a long time. I'm dusting off The Rocketeer for the first time this week in anticipation of the next episode. You guys are awesome. Always look forward to listening to you where I can. Keep up the good work. And if you like horror movies, you should check out Host on Shudder. Creepy movie. I'm not sure if I've seen Host, to be honest, but I'm going to add that to my list.
There are like 6 Host movies, all done by different people.
I have seen a poster with the word host in it. I'm not sure if that's the one that I'm thinking of. The Zoom Home. Oh, I have seen Host then. I did love Host. Yeah. I couldn't remember what that was called. The one that came out this year was legit. It was only like 60 minutes long and I loved it. God, I can't wait for Proto's pick in a week. You know? Cannot wait. Let's get to some of our VMs. Let's see. Speak of the devil, someone who was defending some really James Bond filth.
What's up,
Let's hear it.
70mm? It's Lex. Hope you guys are all doing well, despite the very recent and very fraudulent Thing versus Flash Gordon election. But beyond that, Faves Month keeps rolling on. And this week's movie is The Rocketeer. I love this movie. This is really a perfect pulp adventure story. The performances are fun. The action is really great. The dialogue is snappy. And the Rocketeer costume is just, it's a masterpiece. 4.5 stars. Easy. Don't really have much to say other than that. I'm excited to see the Valentine's Day episode. And I'm excited to hear what Proto chooses. I'm very curious because he has a very interesting selection of faves. But yeah,
Laugh it up.
keep up the good work. Bye.
He said 4.5 stars,
Yeah.
but that voicemail sounded like a 5-star review. Needs to
Do want to
double-check
say,
that.
too, before Proto maybe responds, or if that was it, but we're still in the Alien Journey. This month is the end of our Alien Journey in Discord, where each month we've been watching one of the Alien movies. Covenant is this month's movie. And I just snagged up that 4K on Vudu. I can't wait to fire that bad boy up. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
so where
the week.
I haven't seen this one yet. I'm excited. This is the one. This is where I've stopped my journey.
Oh, man.
Ended at Prometheus. I haven't watched this yet. I'm excited.
This reminds me, Proto, do you have plans for the next journey in our Discord?
I have been ruminating, meditating on the possibilities of where we could go next. I have some insight of where I can go. I think it might be too daunting. I think I mentioned it to you guys. It might be too much for the average movie lover. So I don't know. I don't know if it's what we'll do, but we'll see.
Got time.
Those plans will happen in March. Yeah. Right around the corner.
Remnant Core says, I watched Prometheus like 8 times in theaters. Holy cow.
My gosh.
Megan says the LOTR extended editions. That's December. Well, we actually haven't discussed which version of the trilogy we're doing. I still can't figure out which is the preference from these Lord of the Ring heads. You know, no straight answers at any of them.
Which is the definitive?
Which version?
Not the 4K.
Which is the best version? Because it's the only version I'll watch.
The Dolby Vision version.
70mm audio book. Good Lord. Chuck says extended. You know, Chuck's vote, that has some weight to it. Next voicemail.
Play it.
Hey, 70mm, it's Ben, aka No Soul, No Problem. I didn't get to say this last time, but if you're a listener to this phenomenal show and you're contemplating getting some of Danny's exquisite art, do it. If you think it looks good on that Spotify thumbnail that you're looking at right now, I guarantee you it's 100 times better printed and in person. I know this because my wife bought me some for Christmas, and holy cow, it looks great. Back to the topic at hand with Rocketeer. I've had this movie on my radar for a long time, and it's a funny story how I got here. You see, a few years ago...
What? V'ger.
And then I met my wife, who began introducing me to older Disney movies, so...
Matt, did you hear that?
Then I stumbled across this podcast called 70mm. Ever heard of it? And then I sat down and finally watched it. And guys, I can see why this film is Danny's favorite film of all time. I wouldn't call it my favorite film, but I can say I think I might put this on the same level as Batman 89 or maybe, can I say, Princess Bride? This movie was great.
Oh my.
From the stellar cast to the music. The music. Oh my gosh, the music. So
I'm going to cry.
Anyway, so yes, I have a hard time giving this 5 stars. Part of my heart wants to. So I think I'm actually going to
Follow
give
your heart.
4 stars and a big beating heart right next to it. Thanks for the motivation to watch this great movie, Danny. I look forward to more of your picks in the future. Have a great night. Bye.
You're welcome.
Great voicemail, but unfortunately, I think
Yeah.
Discord does not approve of unlicensed audio being streamed to our live listeners. So I think a lot of that is cut out. But that was a nice voicemail with some quality music included.
We'll fix it in post.
Actually, did you drop the art yet?
Oh, did I drop the art?
Oh,
Please.
God.
Please.
It's sick.
It is
It's
sick.
dropped.
It is sick. It needs to be stopped. All right. Well, I'm just kind of crossing my fingers to make sure no one else has any audio included so that our Discord live listeners can hear the voicemails. Let's see.
Hello, boys. It's Steven again. You know, after last week, when my thoughts on RoboCop and my attempts to find unity in our love of movies, in spite of differences of opinion, were so hated that I feared I might have my listening privileges revoked, I just had to try again with this week's selection. I remember when Rocketeer came out in theaters, and at the time, it didn't look that interesting to me. Then somehow in my memory, I got this confused with the Hudsucker Proxy, which came out a few years later, and I guess that's how my brain works. But finally watching The Rocketeer this week made me sad I had slept on it for so long. So many delightful performances in this film, so many wonderful actors. Jennifer Connelly with her beautiful mind, John Polito with his hi-hat, Alan Arkin with his Argo F Yourself, Terry O'Quinn before he got lost, Paul Sorvino as a good fella, and Margot Martindale. It was fun hearing Timothy Dalton 007 effortlessly switch from a British accent to a German one as soon as he gets exposed as a Nazi. And Billy Campbell hit just the right tone of earnestness with his role. Kind of cross between Captain America and Indiana Jones. The rocket suit and the helmet were perfect, and the ending was delightful. 4 stars from me. Thank you, Danny, and thanks for letting me begin to rehabilitate my rep.
You're welcome.
You still have a long way to go, Steven, okay, with me, with rehabilitating that rep. That review, I'm not going to let it lay. That review for RoboCop, that kept me up at night hearing that. We all remember it. H, I just want to draw some focus to the Discord chat. H is piping in on comments made about Lord of the Rings, which version. He's not even in live chat. He's not even listening live. He's just coming in with his LOTR opinions. Dale, can you take care of this? Can you get a handle on this? H like a black hole. Oh, my word. We're still working on what versions of the Lord of the Rings movies we're going to do. No one has answered which is the better version yet. We'll see what we can figure out. We got one more voicemail coming in here.
Hey, everyone. This is Museum Crawler, a.k.a. real name Grant, a.k.a. Where's the Green Knight, A24. I've been waiting over a year now for Green Knight, A24.
Ask the question.
You can't just give me a trailer a year ago and not drop it. You said it was coming out last summer, and it's still not here. Where is it, A24?
Hallelujah.
Ask it, Grant.
So I'm new here, and I'm going through the backlog. And, I was listening to the 1917 review. And when I first saw 1917, it made me cry like a baby over and over again.
Yeah. Bless.
And then as I was listening to the review of 1917, when you guys were just talking about it and playing short clips from it, I started crying over and over again.
Yeah.
And I had such a visceral need to watch it again that I tried looking for it to stream, to rent, and there's nowhere renting it out. And so I just straight up bought the thing.
Yes.
And the next night I watched it and I cried again and again all over again. So I just wanted to thank you for giving me such an emotional, visceral experience. I'm enjoying my time here already. Thank you. All right, bye.
Wow.
Museum Crawler coming out firing.
It's coming out hard.
Are we doing 1917 again?
The 4K app.
God, first of all, A24, he's right on. A24, wake up.
Give us the movie.
I know that we're probably playing in some kind of office in A24 right now. Release the
Someone's
dang
listening.
movie already. Okay?
In a pandemic, please.
God, remember in 1917 when he's running up that thing and he gets out there, he realizes what he has to do? If
they played the James Horner Rocketeer score when he did that, I'd melt.
Jeez.
I'm going to be honest.
Be honest.
When Crawler was just describing his experience, I started welling up. I was ready to start crying.
Mel, we didn't spoil anything. That's why I kept it vague. Mel, tomorrow night.
What are you doing?
Are we doing a watch party for 1917? These watch parties have been kicking off hard.
This is malpractice as a film lover not to have seen 1917.
Malpractice. Oh my God. I'm not saying it has to be a watch party, but Mel, you need to figure this out. You need to make this work. Okay. We got a file in from Casey here. Do you know what this is, Danny? Do you have any kind of awareness as to what piece of audio she sent in here?
Maybe.
Okay. I'm gonna hit the play button. Hopefully there's no music. Otherwise we're effed.
There's no music.
Hey guys, it's Casey. Apologizing in advance for the audio quality of this voicemail, but I am doing it at 9:56. You guys are talking about Flash Gordon right now. So anyways, when Danny came on my podcast, Fun Sexy Bible Time, in March of 2019, he told a story about the Rocketeer that I would like to now share with everyone else. So here it is.
You know what's funny is I remember not my first boobs. But I remember.
Here we go.
I remember when I realized that they were a thing.
Okay. How old were you? Were you in
90?
Were you in elementary school?
It was 90. Right?
1990?
Yes.
So you were 8.
Right? 1991. Whenever the Rocketeer came out. Because we saw it.
Oh, okay. This is really... Okay, now the puzzle pieces are coming together.
And there's a scene.
Yeah.
Where Jennifer Connelly. In that white silk dress.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh. Oh. Those are boobs.
That's so great.
That's not the reason why I love the Rocketeer still.
Oh,
But I remember.
That's so good.
I remember my first pair.
There you go. Now we all know a little bit of the mystery of Danny's obsession with this movie.
Finally unraveling the onion that is Danny. Look at that photo that Double just posted. Look, everyone look.
Look at that. Look at her.
Oh, God. Fun, Sexy Bible Time. What a blessing. I'll have a link to that episode in the show notes if anyone wants to hear the full discussion with Danny there.
Oh, no. This is getting out of hand.
I can't. I'm not allowing those GIFs to play on my computer right now.
Don't click.
What an episode. What a voicemail from
what
Casey.
A night.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Casey.
How do you feel now that it's in the books, Danny? You know, we had the discussion. The reviews are kaput.
I feel great.
We're moving on.
No one with a 2-star RoboCop review called in for their 2-star Rocketeer reviews. So I apologize that you had to deal with that, Matt.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
No one's true bravery came in tonight, which is what I was worried about. But, here we are.
Next week will be Romeo and Juliet. Is that streaming anywhere? Do we look to see? Let me see. Not streaming on any Netflix or anything, so it's going to be a rental. Romeo and Juliet, special guest Boom from the Cinernauts next week. Before we get to our closing thoughts from Proto, thank you to everyone who has supported the show, shared the show on social media, bought prints, bought hats. How about those RoboCop hats in the store right now? Kidding me? The lips on that Robo.
Rocketeer hat coming.
But thank you so much to everyone. Proto, do you have any closing thoughts to take us out?
I'm inspired by Danny's love for this movie.
Wow.
And his bravery and sharing that love. You know, he went through a trial this week of just experiencing a realm of emotions. But I think we're all the better for it. So, Danny, thank you for loving this movie, and thank you for sharing it with all of us.
You're welcome.
More love coming next week. We'll see everybody then. $70mm is a VHS Village production and produced by Dale_A. Original artwork provided by Danny Haas and spiritual guidance provided by Protolexis. Prints and other merch are available at 70mmpod.com. This episode was mixed and edited by me, Slim. You can support our Patreon for early access to episodes, discounts on merch, a physical membership card mailed to you, and access to our Discord to talk movies with other villagers. If you'd like to support our friends at Letterboxd and upgrade to Pro or Patron status, you can do so with a 20% off discount at checkout on the web using the code 70mm. Goodbye.